Radhe Radhe everyone. Welcome to our daily wisdom from Bhagavad Gita session. Happy New Year and happy Bhakti Divas to everyone. Nitinji, Radhe Radhe.
Radhe Radhe, Mritamani ji. Happy New Year, Happy Bhakti Divas to everyone. Thank you, Vijay ji, for a wonderful session. Three things I learned: Ashwadhavati, Sinham Garjati, and Kaka Ratati. Hopefully, all three are right. Regardless, Aham Cheshtam Karomi or Karuti, something like that. So, Punah Milamaha, Namo Namaha, Dhanyavadaha. So, good morning, good evening, everyone. Welcome to today's edition of Daily Wisdom from Bhagavad Gita. Hope you had a wonderful weekend and a great start to a new year. Radhe Radhe, Shamji, Samji. We are in 2022. The last 2 years have passed by pretty fast. We did have a good celebration in the temple, so I hope it's a great start to your new year, and the new year brings in more of auspiciousness, fulfillment, all the good things, including the spiritual upliftment that we all are seeking for. So with that, welcome again, everyone. Let me share my screen and we will get started with today's session. Today we will we'll try to conclude our anger management series that we've been having with some practical tools and additional discussion around why do we need to tackle it systematically. It's not just another emotion that we can soft pedal or say it's okay to ride it, not a big deal. So let me share my screen and we'll get started with our opening prayers. All right. Guru Brahma, Guru Vishnu, Guru Devo Maheshwaraha, Guru Sakshat Parabrahma, Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Vasudeva Sutam Devam Kamsachanurmardanam Devaki Paramanandam Krishnam Vande Jagatgurum Krishnam Vande Jagatgurum. Radhe Radhe, good morning, good evening, everyone. So, this is where we are right now. Just a quick recap on what we have been doing. So we started off with 3.37. We are in chapter 3, shloka 37. One of the offshoots of that shloka was 2.63, where we started speaking about anger, because lust is where anger and greed come from. So thought it will be a good opportunity to recap anger and especially some of the discussion that we have had in the past, because a lot of people were interested to continue with that discussion or refresh that discussion, especially the ones who had missed it out previously. During the course of that discussion, we touched upon some other shlokas as well. Today we are going to touch upon 9.22 and 9.34 briefly, just briefly, not a deep dive, because they are going to reinforce the concept on why we need to tackle anger and why. So although we are on 3.37, our next session tomorrow, I think we'll pick up another topic. Tuesdays being, we do a recap, refresh, and a little bit of a quiz as well. Wednesday, that will be Thursday morning, we'll pick up 3.38 and continue with our discussion. So today we are going to discuss 9.22 and 9.34. Briefly, we'll introduce them as to why these we need to look at anger in perspective and tackle it systematically by convincing our intellect it is not something we want to associate with. We need to read ourselves and get rid of this emotion. If not completely eradicate, that is our ideal goal. At least start diminishing the intensity of this emotion so that it's not detrimental for our spiritual growth. it is like I said, right? It is the commander in chief of all the mental afflictions that we have to suffer with, and it's really detrimental to our spiritual growth. And we'll see why. We'll look at these two shlokas, what Lord Krishna is saying, and that will put it in perspective. If we continue to choose to ride this emotion, what is going to happen? And we're going to have a bit of a discussion around that with some analogies, just so that we are able to drive home the point around this concept. So let's get started. We will pick up few people on, we are discussing 2.63, and then, like I said, we have two more shlokas, so we can cover as many participants as possible, between these three shlokas. So let's get started with our, by now I'm sure a lot of you would have memorized the shloka. We have gone through it so many times, at least I have memorized it. So let's get started on this one. क्रोधात् भवति सम्मोह, सम्मोहात् स्मृतिविभ्रमः, स्मृतिभ्रंशाद् बुद्धिनाशो, बुद्धिनाशात् प्रणश्यति. All right, do we have any participants who want to take a shot at this one? Like I said, we have two more shlokas, so if you don't get a chance on this one, you can pick up the next two.
Okay, there are 4 hands so far. I'll take all the 4 of them for this.
Sure, real quick.
Yes, Lakshmi ji, you can unmute yourself.
Radhe Lakshmi ji.
Sorry, Rupa ji. Hi, please go ahead, Rupa ji.
Yes, please go ahead.
Radhe Radhe.
Radhe Radhe.
Krodha bhavati sammoha, sammohat smriti vibhrama, smriti pranshad buddhinasho, buddhinashat pranashyati.
Very nice, thank you, Rupa.
Radhe Radhe.
Started picking up the Krodha shloka with a smile. Okay, so that is the progress we started making. So wonderful. Yes, go ahead. Who's next?
Lakshmi ji, Lakshmi Prasanna ji.
Yes,
Radhe Radhe.
Radhe Radhe Lakshmi ji.
Krodhat bhavati sammoha, sammohat smriti vibhramaha, smriti pranshad buddhinasho, buddhinashat pranashyati.
Thank you very much, Lakshmi ji. We'll take one more.
Thank you.
And then remaining we will reserve for the next two shlokas that we have. Let's take one more on this one. Do we have anybody else?
Shyam ji, please go ahead.
Yes, Shyam ji, please go ahead.
क्रोधात् भवति सम्मोहः, सम्मोहात् स्मृतिविभ्रमः, स्मृतिभ्रंशात् बुद्धिनाशो, बुद्धिनाशात् प्रणश्यति.
Wonderful.
Radhe Radhe.
Thank you so much, Radhe Radhe, Shyam ji. Very nice. So the shloka says, anger leads to clouding of judgment, which results in bewilderment of the memory. Memory is bewildered, intellect gets destroyed, intellect gets destroyed, one is ruined. So this is the cycle that unfolds when we get angry. We'll do a quick recap before we move to the next shlokas. So these are the, some of the mental afflictions, the big ones especially, and anger is the commander in chief of this. That is what we have been discussing. And this is called one of the, not only the manas rogs, but one of the anarthas in our heart, right? Antakaran Shuddhi is the primary objective of human life, Antakaran Shuddhi. So if somebody asks what is the agenda of human life, it is Antakaran Shuddhi. The more we have done, the better off we are as a human, or in this particular human life. Rest all is self-created agendas. Okay, we create all the different agendas, right? This is what we need to do, that is what we need to, all that is fine. But primary thing is Antakaran Shuddhi, anything that results towards cleansing of our heart, and cleansing of heart is directly proportional to inculcating love for God. Both are related, right? So if you think about all the concepts that we talk about, happiness, eradicating stress, anxiety, everything, the buck stops at us. It has a direct correlation with the purity of Antakaran, or the purity of mind that we have. So if we say we are not happy, or if we say we have a lot of anxiety, we get stress, a lot of negative thoughts come. It all points to just one thing, that we need to work on our mind. We need to purify it. We need to cleanse it. We need to start developing devotional sentiments towards God and cleanse it. The more cleansed it is, the more at peace, joy, bliss, happiness, all those things will come de facto along with that. So anger is the one that we need to tackle systematically. So let's quickly do a recap, and then we'll get to some other shlokas in which Lord Krishna is giving us a very clear reason as to why we need to tackle this emotion. Because if we don't do that, we'll see the impact of it. So before we get into those shlokas, we'll do a quick recap of anger for the benefit of people who might have missed those sessions. We're not going to spend a lot of time on it, but just a quick recap. So when the intellect is clouded, right, it leads to bewilderment of memory. That's what Lord Krishna is saying. Right? So intellect clouded means it's not able to think clearly. It's like hazy thing. It's like when we drive in a misty weather, we are not able to see the windscreen very clearly. And we have to do a lot of second guessing even while driving. They say in Killer Dhund in northern India, right? You just can't see very clearly. A lot of bad things, mishap happen around that. And that is essentially what happens when we get into that emotion of anger. Our intellect is clouded. It leads to bewilderment of memory, and it all happens within nanoseconds, just like that. But Lord Krishna has so beautifully dissected it for us. This is how anger unfolds. First, your intellect is clouded, you lose judgment, the discerning ability that humans are endowed with. As a result, what happens? The memory is bewildered. Memory bewildered means it is confused. It forgets the context in which it is operating. All it cares for is venting out that anger. So even the person you might have high regards for, or that person you may have gratitude or even liking for that person, all that will go for a toss. Your memory will not cooperate at that moment. All you want to do is you are feeling angry and you want to vent it out. So that means the bewilderment of memory, all the knowledge bank, memory bank that you have about that situation, about that person is lost, and all you care for is anger at that point. And as a result, you don't really care for what is right and what is wrong, because you are predisposed to believing what you are doing is right? After the getting angry, then you try to justify yourself. Who tries to justify itself? Your mind itself, right? And mind is something which will never give judgment against itself. Have your mind ever told you you are wrong? Never. It's only when we start gaining awareness about our own emotions, you start understanding how many problems our mind has. But until we reach that stage, the mind will never give judgment against itself. It will always justify itself. It was needed. I needed to do that. This person is like that. Or if I had not done that, this would have happened. And then the next step is you start to flow with the surge of emotions, something like these waves. It just carries with the momentum. As we have seen the waves, they continue for as long as they can. And then there comes a tipping point where they start retreating in the sand. And that is what happens with anger as well. There comes a point where you have carried far enough, and then now I've gotten the dopamine kick that I was looking for, and now it's time to retreat or take a back seat. Now it can surge again if the other person starts retaliating, but typically this is how the cycle goes. Now let's move on. And then it results in a downward spiral, and that downward spiral is actually basically you keep on going down from divinity to impiety. That's how it goes. And there is no looking back at that point. When you go with the surge of emotions, it's a downhill journey where you keep on falling into the abyss, and it's kind of a spiral. And this cycle continues. So now let's get into, and then because of it, your intellect, which is our internal compass or guide, it gets destroyed, and then we descend down from the level of divinity or from the level of piety to impiety. Right? Within a fraction of seconds, a person can become from a normal human to the level of an animal. Right? People actually end up killing people as well when they become angry. A lot of such instances are there. They end up saying and doing things which they go on to regret later on in life. There was a beautiful story Swamiji is talking about, that there was a guy, it's a very touching story, but there was a guy who saw his son scratching his new car, and he became so angry. Now, why did he become angry? Because of the attachment to that object, material object, right? New car. He beat his health to pulp. And then when he was in hospital, his hand was gone. He looked at what he was scratching, and he was writing, "I love you, Dad." That's what he was writing. Now, can any level of remorse or regret fill in or substitute for what he actually ended up doing while he was angry? No. And that is how strong this emotion can be, where we can end up committing heinous crimes, and by the time we realize, it's too late. And sometimes we don't even realize, we just continue carrying on with that mindset, which is even more detrimental for us. Now let's get into a couple of other shlokas, and I'll tell you the context of these, why these are introduced, because we'll have a little bit of discussion around these as well. So I'm going to recite it. Those of you who didn't get a chance are welcome to follow. Manmana bhava madbhakto madhyaji mam namaskuru mame veshyasi yuktvevam atmanam matparayanaha. Okay, it is from chapter 9. It's verse 34, and I picked up another verse. Beautiful verses, and I'll put it in context why these have been introduced today. All right, Amitamaniji, you can call upon any volunteers who want to.
Udayji, please go ahead.
Yes, Udayji.
Radhe Radhe.
Radhe Radhe.
Yeah. Manmana bhava madbhakto madhyaji mam namaskuru mam evaishyasi yuktvaivam atmanam matparayanaha. Radhe Radhe.
Radhe Radhe. Very nice, Udayji. Thank you very much. All right, we can take a few more participants.
Ramya ji, please unmute yourself.
Radhe Radhe, Ramya ji.
Radhe Radhe.
Radhe Radhe.
Manmana bhava madbhakto madhyaji mam namaskuru mameva evaishyasi yuktvaivam atmanam matparayanaha.
Very nice, Ramya ji. Radhe Radhe.
Pragi ji, if you can unmute yourself. Pragi Kurana ji.
Radhe Radhe, Pragi ji.
Are you able to? Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, Radhe Radhe.
Radhe Radhe.
Manmana bhava madbhakto madhyaji mam namaskuru mame veshyasi yuktvevam atmana matparayana.
Very nice, Pragi ji. Practicing.
Thank you.
Radhe Radhe. All right, do we have anybody else?
Yes, we just have Meenakshi.
Radhe Radhe, Radhe Radhe. Thank you.
Radhe Radhe, Meenakshi ji.
Manmana bhava bhakto madhyaji mam namaskuru mame vaishyasi yuktvaivam atmanam matparayanaha. Radhe Radhe.
Beautiful. Thank you so much, Meenakshi ji. Radhe Radhe.
There are a few hands. Maybe I can take them for the next.
Sure, sure.
Should I take them now?
Yes, please.
Sure.
Although we have one more shloka, but let's take a couple of them, and then I'm sure we'll get some more.
Okay. Akshata ji.
Akshata ji, please go ahead.
Akshata Ramakrishna ji, please go ahead.
Radhe Radhe.
Radhe.
Manmana bhava madbhakto madhyaji mam namaskuru mamaivaishyasi yuktvai vamatmanam matparayanaha.
Thank you, Akshata ji. Where are you joining us from?
Bangalore.
Good to have you on the session. Thank you very much.
Thank
All
you.
right, maybe we can take two more and then we'll get moving.
Yes, Raji ji.
Raji ji, please go ahead.
Manmana bhava madbhakta madhyaji mam namaskuru mame dvaishyasi yukta vaivat matmanam matparayanaha.
Thank you very much, Raji ji. Keep practicing. Appreciate you taking initiative on that. Thank you very much. All right, we'll take one more on this one and then we'll move to the next one.
Sumesh ji, please go ahead.
Yes, Sumesh ji.
Radhe Radhe Nitin ji, Radhe Radhe everyone. Manmana bhava madbhakto मद्याजी मां नमस्कुरु मामे वैश्यसि युक्तैवम् आत्मानं मत्परायणः.
Wonderful, Sumeshji. So this one says, God is saying, always think of me, be devoted to me, worship me, and offer obeisance to me. Having dedicated your mind and body to me, you will certainly come to me. Now, this is an ideal state God is talking about, right? He's saying, think of me, be devoted to me, worship me, and offer obeisance to me. Now, why is God saying that? It's like, help me help you. Okay, he's giving you a formula on how to attain the God realization. Now, the fact of the matter is that God has given us two eyes, right? 2 ears, just one mind. And if in that one mind we continue to harbor resentment or anger or all of these things that take a lot of our mind space, where is the time to actually think of God or to be devoted to Him? Just hold on to that thought and we'll move on to the next one, and then we'll have a bit of a discussion on that as well. So that is why this shloka I introduced, because in this one, Lord Krishna is very, very clearly saying, the ideal or aspired state for Jivatmas to attain God is to, like I said, the only agenda of life is to purify our antakaran. And why purify? Because it is dirty. Dirty since when? Since time eternity. So like we said that if our antakaran were to be equated with something material, just to as an analogy, it would be a very old and a dirty cloth, antakaran. And that cleaning up of that cloth or cleansing that cloth is the only agenda of life. That is why we've been bestowed this human life. We cannot do the cleansing job in any other gross body, in any other species, form or species. Now, all the other agendas, right, that we create around us in our minds, that, okay, I need to do this, only if we could have this, the life should be like this, only let's have our people around us should be like that, and all that stuff that we do. It's all a self-created agenda, as part of participating in this life, so to say. So Antakaran Shuddhi is the only agenda. And how can we purify something which is dirty? By associating it to something which is pure. It's a very logical thing, right? How do we clean dirty clothes? By putting detergent to it. Now, what is pure? The only thing that is pure is two things in this world: God and God realized saints. Everything else is tainted with the Triguna Maya that we have. Now, God has simplified it for us, says, okay, God is pure, but then He has said, my name, forms, abodes, virtues, and parikar. That all abodes and all parikar, basically Naam, Roop, Gun, Leela, Dham, and parikar, associates. They are also pure. So if you think about them, then also you are cleansing your mind. But on the contrary, if you think about anything in this material world, right, especially when you are harboring resentment or anger or any kind of negative emotion, you're renting that thing. You're actually meditating upon that worldly thing. What is going to be the impact of that? It is going to color your mind. Color means dirty your mind further. We don't have two minds. If we had two minds, we would have been smart enough to say, God, one mind is reserved for your devotion. The other mind is reserved for me to vent out my other emotions, with the world around. So God said, no, that will not work. I've given you one mind. Either you put me in that or you put rest of the world in it. Choice is yours. And the only way to purify is to think about something which is pure. So when we start harboring this emotion, especially the resentment part of it, this can be lasting. People have not spoken to each other, especially couples. I mean, Maharajji was telling a story, for lifetimes. They have not spoken to each other for lifetimes just because they became angry. Somebody hurted others' ego, and the thing became so big in their head that they did not speak for the rest of their lives. That is how it can happen as well. And then there are we know that it's how difficult it is for us to forgive somebody. That resentment keeps building up within us, and it is said forgiveness is the crown jewel of all the spiritual virtues that you can acquire, but it's not so easy to do that. And that is why Lord is saying, if you do that, you have absolutely discarded me at that point. You cannot say I will become angry and have God in my heart at the same time. Not possible. The mind cannot be at two places at the same time. And this is a very strong emotion. When you do that, you are not only degrading your sanskars, but actually forfeiting that opportunity, which could have been well spent in cleansing your mind by dirtying it further. And let's go to another shloka just to reinforce that concept. It's one of my, I really like this shloka when I came across. So they're all related to bhakti and the continuity that is required. So I'm going to recite it and you're welcome to follow it afterwards. Ananyaschintayanto mam ye jana paryupasate tesham nityabhyuktanam yogakshemam vyayamyaham. All right, we can take a few participants and then move forward.
Shaliji, you can unmute yourself, Shaliji.
Radhe Shaliji.
Radhe Radhe Nitinji.
Radhe, good to hear you after a while.
Ananyaschintayanto mam ye jana paryupasate tesham nityabhiyuktanam yogakshemam vahamyaham. Radhe Radhe.
Radhe Radhe, very nice, Shaliji.
Vandana ji.
Yes, Vandana ji, we'll take maybe 3 or 4 hands and then we'll continue.
Radhe Radhe.
Radhe Radhe.
Ananyaschintayanto mam ye janah paryupasate tesham nityabhiyuktanam yogakshemam vahamyaham. Thank
Wonderful,
you.
Vandana ji. Thank you. We'll take 2 more maybe.
Samji, please go ahead.
Radhe Radhe.
Radhe Radhe, Samji.
Ananyāśchintya anto mam ye jana prashipasite tesham nitya abhiyuktanam yogakshema vahamyaham.
Very nice, Samji. Radhe Radhe. All right, let's take maybe a couple more and then we'll get started.
Smita ji, go ahead, please.
Radhe Radhe.
Radhe Radhe everyone.
Radhe Radhe.
Ananyaschintayanto mam ye janah paryupasate tesham nityabhiyuktanam yogakshemam vahamyaham.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Smita ji. Okay, let's take the remaining raised hands as well and then we'll move on.
Go ahead, Uday ji.
Yeah. Ananyaschintayanto mam ye jana paryupashate tesham nitya abhiyuktanam yogakshemam vahamyaham. Radhe Radhe.
Thank you so much. Radhe Radhe. Do we have anybody else as well?
We have Ramya ji, but she already did. If you want, I can take her last.
Sure, Ramya ji, we can take one more, so that's fine. Real quick.
Radhe Radhe.
Radhe Radhe.
Ananyaschintayanto mam ye jana paryupasate tesham nityabhiyuktanam yogakshemam vahamyaham.
Wonderful, Ramya ji. Thank you very much. Okay, I can see one more hand. I think this is good. This is how we dovetail our greed to recite shlokas or to think about God, which is pretty welcome. So let's take up a couple of hands and then I'll try to rush. Maybe we can take 2 more.
Thank you. Radhe Radhe. Ananyaschintyanto mam ye janam paryupasate tesham nitya abhiyuktanam yogashevam vahamyam.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Pradi ji. Let's take 2 more and no more after that.
Meenakshi ji, please go ahead. Yeah, please unmute yourself. Yeah.
Yes, Radhe Radhe.
Radhe Radhe.
Anyaschintayanto mam ye janah paryupasate tesham nityabhiyuktanam yogakshemam vahamyaham.
Wonderful, Meenakshi ji. Thank you very much. We'll take the last one and then we'll get started.
Radhe Radhe. अनन्यास चिन्तयन्तो मां ये जनाः पर्युपासते तेषां नित्याभियुक्तानां योगक्षेमं वहाम्यहम्.
Thank you so much.
Radhe Radhe.
Radhe Radhe. Wonderful. So in this shloka, Lord Krishna is saying those who always think of me and engage in exclusive devotion to me. The operative word here is exclusive. It's not like not only but also. He's saying exclusive devotion to me. Those whose minds are always absorbed in me. So now this is an ideal state. It's not easy to do that until we practice it. And first of all, discard the other things that can take our mind space, including anger, of course. Then he says, Yoga Kshemam Vyamyaham. We've spoken briefly about this concept in the past as well. Yoga Kshem Vyamyaham is the LIC statement, right? You would have seen in India, where he's saying, I provide what they lack and preserve what they already possess, right? Maharajji so nicely explains in his lectures, there are three things, in fact, what God does. First of all, he provides what we lack, that is needed for our spiritual progress. As you would see, when you started off on this path, I think your experience would tell you that, now that you have prioritized reading Bhagavad Gita and thinking about these concepts, there are a lot of things you would have started clicking from within, or somewhere in the universe that message is being passed on to you. I'm sure you would have realized that. Okay, by the way, I met, some message started coming in from universe, somebody you met, or what you were looking for, that message came on a particular day. All those things start happening. Okay, that is one realization. So that is where Lord Krishna is saying that when you start putting your, prioritizing spirituality, he would start providing you what you lack in order for you to progress. And then the second thing is, whatever corner you have cut in spirituality, that is preserved, which is again a huge blessing or a huge mercy from God. Because if it was not preserved, then we would end up frittering it away, just like that, right? The kind of our minds, the way it operates. So he would preserve it for you. He knows how difficult for us is to make progress, even though it might be so little. That is preserved. That is called Yoga Kshem Vyamyaham. And there's a third thing also that happens. You would realize it based on your experience as well. Things that you have, but are not needed on this path, they will start getting destroyed. It is called Anartha Nivritti, right? For example, the kind of association, people, things that you had interest in the past will start falling away by themselves gradually. You would experience that as well. Now, for us to have that eligibility for Yoga Kshem Vyamyaham for God, what do we need to do? We need to engage in exclusive devotion to him. And for us to devote, again, we just have one mind. God has not given us multiple minds where we can reserve one of it for all the worldly things that take away our mind space, and one for devotion. No, it's not possible. So when we succumb to other things, resentment, anger, any other emotion born out of lust, then again, it is an opportunity lost to actually engage in devotion or putting our mind to what it is given to us for, to, at the very first place as humans. So that is another aspect of it. Now let's try to take this concept a little deeper. We'll have a little bit of a discussion on this one. So as you can see on your screen, you can see some nice milk being poured, right? So now you have a couple of vessels here. One is this one, and one is this one. Now the question is, we'll have a bit of a discussion before we move forward. In which jar would you choose to pour the milk in, and why? And your time starts now. So let's hear it from participants to take this discussion further.
Samji, yes, go ahead, please. You can unmute yourself.
Yes, Samji.
Radhe Radhe. Okay, the left one. One thing, it is clean, pure clean, and smooth. Second thing, it is sitting straight. Milk can go into that one, and it can be held there. And the right hand side, one thing, the vessel itself is dirty. The receptacle is dirty. And second thing, it is tilted, so it won't hold the milk. And if by chance, which is still doubtful, if there is a one drop falls into that one, it won't stay there and it's not worth it. It's dirty, you cannot even drink that one. It'll be a total waste.
Wonderful. Yeah, the fact that the second vessel is tilted was purely coincidental, not at all intentional. However, it brings in another concept, which I'm glad you brought in that point as well. We'll have a bit of a discussion on that as well. But yes, you are right. Let's hear from other participants if they want to add further commentary, color to this discussion before I get into the concept around it. But yeah, great point, Samji, and great observation as well around not only it's dirty, but it is tilted as well. How it's going to hold the milk? It cannot. Yes.
Radhe.
Yes.
Radhe Radhe.
Radhe Radhe.
The shloka that we just learned, right? Ananyah chintayanto mam yaf janaf paryupasate tesham nityabhiyuktanam yogakshemam vahamyam.
Yes.
So here, right, the one that is transparent without a lid, and most, like if you see most of the people, they think, yeah, this is clean, let us go for this. So when you see, right, in our real life too, people tend to go for, which is nice, which is best. But sometimes you see the poor people who are, dingy, dirty, they might be having a good heart. It's the only thing is, if you clean and go deep into them and learn, right, you will know that they also will be, they also will be having a good heart. And one of the things that, in most of the Purvanyasas and the other things they mentioned is, when God comes, it's not that he always comes in a clean and neat form. So God can come in any form. So you had to be able to accept everything. So that's what, there is no correct answer whether to pour it in the left or right. It all depends upon, what you do. You want to take the risk and clean the dirty one and pour it into it? It needs little bit of manpower. It needs little bit of effort. And like if you think that you're going for a clean one, it's being lazy. It's not that. It's like, if you want it to be perfect, everything needs to be neat and clean, then go to the one that's transparent, neat and clean.
Great point, Raji. Yeah. So yeah, let's continue this conversation. So the key concept here is God's grace is like this milk. Okay, if we were to take that analogy, it's like this milk. So first of all, obviously our orientation has to be proper to receive that grace, right? Samji brought in that point, so I thought, okay, let's talk about that as well. Right now we have turned our back towards God, right? It's a bit like the tilted vessel. So we need to first of all have our orientation or antenna raised, where we have made spirituality or understanding or seeking that, why am I here? What am I doing here? What is my relationship with God? What is the purpose of life? All those has to be, when we start seeking, then we are actually aligning our orientation to receive that grace, right? That's one aspect of it. Second is, if our antakaran is not clean, we are dirty, we have anger, envy, jealousy, all that stuff. See, even when we bring in a dignitary to our house, let's say you come to know Prime Minister Modi or President Biden is going to come to our house. What are you going to do? You're going to clean it. You're going to do something special in your drawing room, that, hey, some dignitary is going to come. And here we are talking about inviting God to our heart. He's already decided within, but then he will not bestow his grace with a dirty heart. When we have those kind of emotions, like if you put milk in a dirty vessel, it will curdle. So in order to receive that milk in its purest form, we need to clean. That antakaran shuddhi is the cleaned vessel. When the vessel is prepared, then God will come and reside and sit in that heart. So like we say in India, like in Western countries, Ville is usually, Louisville, this Ville. In India, the place is called Pur, right? My place is called Palampur. There is Noorpur, there is Bilaspur, there is Kanpur. There are so many Purs. So in our scriptures, they say, where does God reside? And the answer is, God resides in Urpur. Urpur means he resides in our heart. So that Ur has to be clean, like this vessel. If it is not clean, he will not come. So next time we get angry or we start harboring negative emotions, we are basically saying, God, go away. Okay, I'm not going to welcome you in my heart. So that was the concept. So we need to have a clean vessel for us to be able to have that eligibility to host God in our heart, because God will not reside in a dirty heart. He will not reveal himself, even though he's going to be continue to be our super soul, but he will not reveal himself until our heart is dirty. And anger is the surest, fastest, smartest, and not so coolest way to make it dirty. Okay, that was the key concept. Now let's get on. I know we have a couple of other hands raised. We'll get back because we'll continue this discussion. Now, when we get angry, let's look at this postman, right? We do get tormented from people from time to time. So do we get angry at the postman when a bad news is delivered? We don't do that, right? So the people around us, they are just the nimit matra, instruments and carrier to deliver the goods that truly belong to us. If somebody is being mean to you, my karma, my fault, that's what scripture says. This is the way to look at it. In fact, Jeev Goswami, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's, one of the senior disciples, he said that all these people in the world are rice. These are good people in the world who are forced to behave badly because of my own karma. Now, that is a very elevated state. It's not easy for us to do that. Because I know the moment I look at this person's face, how can this person be good? But that is the way saints have attuned or conditioned their mind to believe, that it is my own goods that are being delivered to me just because of my past karma. There might have been situations where you might have troubled that person, and now we are getting it in return just to learn some lessons. We don't know the grand plan, how it is unfolding. And when we have the mindset that my inner growth is my priority, then we don't dwell too much into it and don't let these emotions take more space than necessary in our heads, because that will dirty our ur, and God resides in Urpur. Okay, we can remember that always. So moving on, if you look at some of the triggers, we need to avoid that, like the potholes we see on the road. We don't put our car consciously in a pothole. Similarly, we can avoid people and things, situations, circumstances which basically render our temperament bad. It can happen. We need to protect ourselves around that because we are not yet there. It affects us. So stay away, avoid those triggers, have a better awareness. These are some of the tools I think we have spoken, so I thought we'll be bringing. Writing down instead of yelling down, start writing it down and see how long it will take you. You'll start finding it very boring what you write down. Okay, and that's what we put it in words. In fact, Maharajji says that 50% of lack of peace in this world is only by words, yelling that we do. That is the cause of 50% of lack of peace in this world, words, not even actions. Right? People are not actually hitting each other or beating each other. 50% is just because of words. And those words, if not carefully chosen, can cause a lot of Ashanti, as we know. And hit a pause, like researchers, motivational speakers, all those they talk about, these are some of the tools we had put in. There must be more, and I would like people to talk about it. Just wanted to quickly cover that, like hitting a pause, letting the storm pass away, as opposed to riding that emotion then and there itself. We were talking about having that ability to respond as opposed to reacting, introducing that little bit of gap and not have that synapses between stimuli and response. And then no anger zones, in house, you can, like the temple, you can put in places like in your dinner table, or those, you don't do that. These are some of the things, that might work, not included to these alone, of course. And accepting failures, basically, where we teach our children to be success factories right from the word go. That's not the case. In fact, I was reading an article that Australian cricket team, they don't take people until you have failed in life. So if you have been a child prodigy like Tendulkar in India, yes, you could probably be blooded into international cricket. But Australian cricket team, it's like, all right, you have been doing great. We understand that. But failure is a part of life. We want to see when you failed and how did you come out of it. That will define your character. And that's when they will take you in your team, when you have proven your mettle on how you came out of that adversity, not what you continued to do when you were being successful. That is what defines us. So it's not about falling 7 times. It is about having that ability to be able to get up the 8th time. That Edison, when he was asked, you have failed so many times, he said, I've been failing so many times, but then if I look at it the other way, I have figured out 999 ways I've understood those 999 ways of how not to fail. Right? So 1,000 times he succeeded in developing the electric bulb that we are utilizing it till this states, and then that is one of the reasons for us to feel angry, angst, upset with life around us. Communication is an important thing as well. Are we dealing in the same currency, right? Sometimes we are telling something, but the other person, especially different peoples have different drivers. Some people are very analytical, some are warm, woolly, fuzzy, right? All they need is some emotional, tender care. Took me a while to understand that, especially on people around me, because some people, especially engineers, they're very analytical, logical, and they want to do. But some people, for them, logic is fine. All they need is a little bit of care. And they'll understand it that way. A quick story around it. 2 kids, they were fighting over an orange. And the mother came, somebody came and she cut it into half and gave half to both of them. While actually one of them just needed the pulp and other one just needed the wrap around it, okay, for the projects that they were doing. So they might be needing 2 different things, but the currency in which we are dealing, which is our communication, might not be spot on. That is why conflicts can happen as well. What was the other one? Unhealthy comparisons. Fishes cannot fly, birds cannot swim. Einstein said that, right? We start having unhealthy comparisons, which can cause a lot of angst, especially in youngsters, in our kids, when we start having unfair expectations from them. And a few more. These 4 people, I'm sure you would know that. We'll have a little bit of discussion on that tomorrow. This is the biggest problem that we all succumb to. Thinking about what will these 4 people say around us. Right, that can cause a lot of angst within families as well, right? Sabse bada roog kya kahenge 4 log, they say, right? And we take the world too seriously, as if it's going to define, make or break the life, or define our success, very success. And then if we pass a remote to others for our emotional well-being, then we are actually putting our mind to slavery. If we have like 10 people who have a remote to your temperament, how vulnerable we are. So is it good to hand over the keys to our happiness or remote to somebody else, or take more control about our emotions ourselves? I think that is a question to be asked, which is a more smarter way of approaching this problem. And then the attitude of gratitude. When we start filling ourselves with a lot of positivity, there is no place for negative emotions like anger, anxiety, and stuff like that. It's just that so many things we take for granted. We think we have it, so not a big deal, everybody has it. But actually, if we start counting our blessings, starting from the fact that we are able to see it, we have an able body, we wake up every day, we have warm water to take bath with, we get food, we don't have to worry about a roof on our head, so many things to be grateful about, which we take for granted. Then you start filling yourself with positivity, see the people who have helped us become who we are today, and we start filling ourselves with gratitude. A lot of these negative emotions will start taking a backseat. And tolerance, endure what we can't cure, right? This Bhagavad Gita shloka also talks about that we need to be able to take, neither get too excited and rejoicing, or grieve on experiencing the unpleasant. Again, that pendulum principle, the more equanimous we are around those situations, the better off we are. And what we can't cure, we endure, and that we can't cure, we just need to endure that. Like I said, there are only 3 options in life: either learn to live with it, or quit it, or change it. Do you really have that option? We have to have a very clear understanding of that in all the relationships that we are in. If we are dealing with somebody in our family, we can't really have an option. We don't really have an option to put our foot down. Then we need to learn to endure it. If we can do something about it, change it by having a stern word, with a calm mind, probably we can explore that option as well. Or if we can possibly bring about a change as well, if there is somebody who we think we can talk to and do that. So that assessment is all self-assessment. It's very contextual. But the key here is the shloka 5.20, where Lord is saying that you don't get deluded either by happiness or by unpleasant experiences. Just treat them equally and learn to endure stuff that will help you in your inner growth. So ABCD, these are some of the things of spirituality that might be a good tool for us to, like we spoke about a couple of shlokas, right? Today, 922 and 934. How do we prepare that vessel for God so that God can come and reside in it, and we don't have time, or we don't give too much space, mind space, to negative emotions like anger. So there are a few things like ABCD of spirituality talks about. These are some of the things we should start practicing in our life. A stands for association with people who bring in the best out of you. Okay, you may come across people, friends, relatives who have the ability, uncanny ability to bring in the best of you. There are people who will bring the worst out of you. We can avoid them like potholes. And then there are people who can bring the best out of you. So one is the association, and that you can extend that to satsangs as well. When you have like-minded people, like we are sitting here doing this Bhagavad Gita session, or we go to a satsang, weekly satsang, then that is when we are associating with positive energies that will bring out the best in you. That is purifying for our mind as well, and that is uplifting. So that is the first principle, which comes from A. The B is the book reading. We need to invest time in reading good stuff, scriptural stuff that is actually truly uplifting. That contemplation of knowledge is called is very, very uplifting, because we think we have heard this concept, we have understood this concept, but we have not. Okay, in Patanjali Yoga Sutra say that in Kali Yuga, one of the symptoms would be for people that they will not be able to retain the knowledge. And the divide between theory and practical is so huge that the more we continue to mull over it, repeat it in our head, the better off we are. So it's very important to continue investing time in book reading and mull over those concepts so that they become solidified and they become part of our DNA from an implementation standpoint as well. C is chanting God's name. Try to fill your space with chanting God's name, and remembrance is the key there. If you're chanting God's name and thinking about the world, again, it's multiplication with zero. So it's very important to start filling the gaps in your day rather than going to Instagram, Facebook, or news or any journal browsing. Start replacing it with God's name, with the remembrance. It will be, if you do this practice, we did this challenge for a week. If you do this practice for 10 days, you will see for yourself, like they say, the proof is in the pudding. Narad Bhakti Darshan also, it is said that bhakti is so strong when you do associate yourself with God, God's name and his remembrance, it will give its proof like the proof of salt in food. You don't have to go too far to actually experience. If you do this practice for 10 days, filling in the vacuums of your day, the spaces that happen between two tasks, rather than thinking about the world or harboring some resentment or generally scrolling Facebook, Instagram, or news, put in word God's chanting with remembrance and see what happens in 10 days. Okay, it's a challenge you can take on yourself, and you will realize, you will see the difference, the calm that you will experience, the sheer joy and bliss that you will start feeling from within by this simple practice will itself give you the proof that how powerful it is. And D, of course, is the diet. We have to supplement it with diet as well, right? If we don't supplement it with diet, again, it will take our mind towards worldly things based on the kind of food we are. Like, for example, if you're indulging in intoxication and stuff like that, then it will actually, take you towards your lower nature more than your higher nature. So for us to continue to tap into our higher nature, we have to supplement it with good diet as well. Avoiding stale food, and we can go into Bhagavad Gita shlokas around that. As you see, you can go actually in 17.8, 17.9, 17.10. It talks about all the foods which are conducive for our spiritual journey, so to say. So you can actually, I'm going to share this anyway. I'm going to upload it. 17.8 to 17.10 talks about it. There is A, B, C, D, E also, etiquette as well, because when you start progressing on it, obviously, we don't focus too much on the rules and part of it, but then etiquette parts start coming in automatically, where you start taking bath and then you start prioritizing meditation early on in the day or before going to sleep, and all those kind of things, where it becomes more of a routine, non-negotiable routine in your life, because you start reaping the benefits out of it. So it may start off as a need, because you really want to make a difference in your mind, right? We want to get rid of anger. We want to have a welcoming, prayerful heart so that we can welcome God in that. It may start off as a need because we are struggling with our mind. But once you start reaping the benefits of it, once you start experiencing that peace, bliss, joy from within, it will become a need over time, and it will become non-negotiable in your daily routines. So that the last one is etiquette, where you start putting it as a daily routine, and it starts becoming non-negotiable, because you know the day you miss it, something is missing in your day. All right, with that, let's open it up for discussion. Again, I think this was the topic that we had. Thoughts from, I know we couldn't cover everybody, and I have been speaking for far too long today. So any thoughts around the preparation of vessel itself, because we have to draw God's grace. and we have to uplift ourselves. I would like to invite any comments, discussion around this topic, or whatever we have discussed today.
I don't see any hands raised, but yeah, Padmaji.
Yes, Padmaji, let me share it again. Give me a sec.
You can unmute
Yes,
yourself.
Padmaji, please go ahead.
Radhe Radhe. I'll expand this on the portal. So many, you have covered so many slokas and so many things. I want to, so I wrote down this, right? So I think caution, precaution, and action. That's how I wrote it. Caution is, you know where you want to go. What is that we are seeking for, which is purify our mind, right? So the caution is, don't get angry, because anger is the king or the root of every other emotions, but that is the very strongest one. So the biggest caution here is keep your anger in control, or manage, or modify, whatever the term that one wants to use. And then the precaution is, once you're there, that is also important. Once you actually reach there, or at least reach where you want to reach, precaution is to avoid those situations or people or circumstances which are going to bring you back to that lower state of mind. And the action is to continue chant God's name, be in satsang, be consciously aware of who you're spending your time with, or where you're spending your time with. So I think these three terms for me would be something that I would say, caution, precaution, and action. One thing that you did bring up very beautifully is, when you truly at God's feet and you say, I really want to purify my mind, and I'm really not able to do it. But when you beg him from a very purest heart, he will create those situations. He will create people. He will create whatever you need to get there. And whatever that means take away situation, put a person in your life, take away person in your life. You should be willing to take that as God's grace and say, yes, you have heard my voice, you have heard me, and then you have given me the situation. So that openness and surrender, when you're willing to have that faith, at that point he's going to give you more faith. As they say, faith gives you more faith. So you have to have the true conviction, and if you contemplate enough on it, then it will sit in your intellect, and truly magical things will happen to everybody. Radhe, Radhe, Radhe.
Great point, Padmaji. Very true. In fact, this is something each one of us can actually take it as an experiment, right? Even when we, let's say, in the material world, if you want to, let's say, build muscles or lose weight, or trying to acquire a new skill, what do? We go through the theory, we put faith in that, and then we experiment around with it. And when we start experimenting around it with it and see results, it further solidifies and reinforces our faith. And spiritual science is no different, especially the marg of bhakti. Some of the simple principles that we're talking about, you start bringing in God into the mix, start filling in the vacuum, start remembering God with loving devotion. Put your triggers, maybe a mobile app you can take. I think Blip, there is an app which can remind you every 30 minutes or 1 hour, you can increase the frequency that, okay, I have to remember God now. So all those tools we can take help from. And if you practice it, we don't have to do it for a lot of time. Even if you practice it for 10 days or 2 weeks, you will see, like Padmaji is saying, right? God has its way to make you understand or realize, because he's waiting for us to take that initiative. And you will see, you'll start seeing the change. And it is so conspicuous, so irrefutable, that you will say, yeah, something is special started happening already. I mean, I have experienced it, so that's how I can say that it is something very special. You just need to try it for, like in my spiritual journey was talking about, right? When I started chanting and doing all that stuff, you would see something is happening, and it is bound to give it a result, because that is how uplifting it can be. Great point, Padmaji. And then we have to welcome God in our heart. That is the eventual aim of our life, right? And then start filling ourselves with more positivity than negativity, that we don't have space for any negativity left. Attitude of gratitude, and we should be so hung up or so focused in working of ourselves that we should not even have time to think or care about, the things that are happening around us. Why did that person do that? Why he doesn't behave in a certain way? All these are manufactured from our mind because we have time and misplaced priorities. If we truly have right priorities, we will be so hung up in our own rectifying our own self that we'll not have time to think about the world and imperfections that we see as such. Okay, let's hear from other participants as well. In the meantime, please fill out the attendance tracker, Amritamanji, if you can post that, that'll be really great.
The attendance tracker has been posted and I post it again.
Radhe, Radhe. As Nitinji and Padmaji already mentioned it, it's the same thing like we were talking earlier. If the vessel is clean, it is equivalent to like having the satsang. In case it is clean and there is no anger, greed of anything in your mind and it's totally clean, only then it's worth to drink it. Even if trace of yogurt or something of the previous whatever was contamination was there, that can spoil the whole thing. A very, very small thing of the yogurt will curd the whole thing. We're not talking about the second right side, left side we are talking about. So same way from your own mind's receptacle, you have to take out anger, greed, lust, and whatever the other byproducts of those all things are there. So basically, just is the same thing.
Very true. Very true.
Satsang or whatever else you can come across.
That's very true. So yes, it's not even a small trace we can afford, like you so clearly pointed out, and we need to have it squeaky clean. That's when God will enter, and we should be able to, that is continue to.
And then you will feel also like to invite somebody, especially in this case, spirituality, God or saints or anybody to your home, if it is totally clean. If the God and the saints also would like to know to come to your home and they will like it and they will bless you in case the totally environment in your home or in your mind is clean, totally clean.
Very true. Very true. Yes. And again, if we tie it back to anger, we need to refrain from anger because it is something which dirties it really quick and it depletes our punyas very quickly. That is why we need to be very careful about anger and really take it seriously. Not something like, okay, it's okay to vent it. No, we need to do something about it. And you will actually realize that it is very liberating and refreshing when you are able to make small progresses in, controlling your anger. That serotonin kick, that is one aspect of it. But it is like we are a slave and we have broken one chain of, 1,000 other chains that we have. It is actually very satisfying to actually experience that, we have started breaking shackles. It is liberating for our own mind more than anything else. Because currently when we ride anger, it is like a slavery of mind that we need to rise above. So slavery is not good. So when you get out of that slavery, start getting out of that slavery gradually, it is very, very refreshing and liberating. But we have to put a conscious effort around that. It can happen. If we seek help from God, He will help us on that because we really want to make a difference in our lives. We really want to welcome Him in our heart and we really want to rise above all these afflictions, and He's more than willing to help us. Once we start having a prayerful heart and start consciously working on it, you'll be surprised to see within a month the version that you have and the version that you had, there's a huge difference, positive difference. All right, let's quickly take and then over to you, Amritamaniji, for announcements. If we have maybe real quick, we can take maybe one hands.
Yeah, Seemaji, yeah, you can go ahead.
Radhe Radhe Nitinji and Amritamaniji, which jar? Oh, can you show me that screen, please?
Oh, sure.
I want to read that screen.
Sure. Are you
okay. Yeah, I can. In which jar would you choose to pour the milk in? Obviously, the clear jar because it seems to be pure inside and outside. And the way that's how we need to have our minds. And that can be done with my favorite tool, Rupadhan on Sri Krishna or their Ishtadev to imbibe those qualities. And then again, of course, another example that comes to my mind is in the olden days where they had ink bottles with blue ink.
Yep.
moving sattvic thoughts, sattvic shubha sanskars in it. And then eventually that ink will flow out and have clear water in it. One thing I want to address was anger. This is when our mind is pure and we have expanded the gap between the stimulus and the response. We are able to actually be the sakshi, the witness, the observer, and see that the negative emotion of anger is arising in us. And so we are able to not engage in anger when somebody pushes our emotional buttons, and slow and calmly respond to it. We may not be able to reach that stage immediately, but with practice we can do that.
Yes.
And that has taken me a few years. And when we see that, we realize if we don't do it, and sometimes we do engage in anger very quickly, and we realize we are sliding down the ladder of spirituality. And so it's not, the way I look at it, it's not, we may not be able to stop ourselves immediately, but with Rupa Dhan meditation, we are able to catch that descent at a similar rate every time. The following time, instead of going 10 steps, maybe we go 9, and so on, because of our meditative merits, the punya. Thank you.
Very true. Meditation is the best way of building resilience and fast tracking our antakaran shuddhi, especially Rup Dhyan. If you can do that, Maharaj Ji used to say that's the pran of meditation. There's nothing better than doing Rup Dhyan, especially if we want to cleanse our mind and build that spiritual resilience within. That's a topmost thing one can do. And basically without Rup Dhyan, we can't really progress as well. It's very difficult, arduous journey otherwise. So we just got to prioritize it and start getting better at it on a daily basis. It may start off as 2 minutes, 5 minutes, 3 minutes, 10 minutes, but eventually we have to solidify that practice if we really want to progress quickly on this path. Okay, real quick, or you want to make any announcements, Amrutamani ji, or how are we?
Yeah, the attendance tracker has been posted, so please, am I audible?
Yes, you are audible.
The attendance tracker has been posted, so please take a moment to fill that. And tomorrow, Tuesday, we do have morning gems with Swamiji, 7:30 a.m. CST, and 6:15 p.m. we do have Hanuman Tel Sindur Abhishek, so it can be joined virtually or in person. 8 p.m. Tulsi Ramayan and 9 p.m. Daily Wisdom from Bhagavad Gita. Those are the sessions, but in the WhatsApps, you will be getting all the sessions, including the Academy ones. So please do not get confused. We do have all the sessions.
Wonderful. Thank you, Amrutamani ji. And tomorrow we're going to discuss allodoxophobia. Okay, what is that? I'll tell you tomorrow. And have a bit of a quiz as well, like we do these days. Pick up a concept, have a little bit of Q&A around it, and then expound on that topic. We spent a fair amount of time on 3.37, but I hope it has been well worth it because we covered a lot of other shlokas along with it, right? Starting with 2.63 and a lot of other chapters that we brought into the fold as well. Padmaji, I see your hand raised real quick if you wanted to add something.
Go ahead. Sorry, I didn't.
I just wanted to add like 2 things, and in the perspective of self, right? We are so like self-processed and self. If we think about this in this way, that is, if we are merciful to ourselves, what does that merciful means? Like control our own anger. That means it's not about somebody else, but we are actually showing mercy on ourselves. The more mercy that we show on ourselves, the more mercy that we're going to get from God. So this is another way to think, be merciful to self, control your anger. Then he's going to be more merciful so that we can get where we want to get or where we need to get. That is another alternate way to think about, anger.
Very true. Very true. We like it. Actually, we all want our welfare, but the problem is we don't have the right direction to really, strive for that welfare that we've been eternally looking for. So nobody wants to be in a bad spot, right? We all want our eternal welfare, but then we don't have the tools, techniques, knowledge, or deep contemplation around it to truly know where our actual welfare lies. Right? We all are swarthi. We have to be swarthi, selfish, for as long as we are not completed our God realization. But Maharaj Ji used to say that if we truly understand where our swarth will get siddh, where our self-interest will truly get fulfilled, then also our life will be a success. Now we all want to feel happy, but the direction that we have chosen and the tools that we employ in meeting that end are incorrect. And that is where spirituality kicks in. It tries to do the course correction by telling us what you are doing is actually not going to lead you what you are truly striving for. All right, wonderful discussion. Thank you, everybody. Please do fill in your attendance tracker, provide your feedback. Tomorrow, again, we're going to have an engaging conversation. Wishing you again a very happy new year and a great day ahead. And I look forward to seeing you again tomorrow. We'll do our closing prayers. Om Sarve Bhavantu Sukhinah, Sarve Santu Niramaya, Sarve Bhadrani Pashyantu, Ma Kaschit Dukha Bhag Bhavet. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Radhe Radhe. Thank you, everybody. Great day and a great rest of the evening.
Thank you, everyone.
See you tomorrow.
See you all tomorrow. I'll be closing the bridge now. Thank you, everyone.